I'll start the broadcast. Mr. Mayor, we're live.
All right. So today is August 7th, 2024, and the time is 5:05 with 5 o'clock, 7 minutes, 5:07 p.m. And I'm calling to order the Ballpark City Council special meeting. City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Estrada,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ayala,
Here.
Councilmember Avila. Let the record reflect Councilmember Avila is not present. Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Damian.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, City Clerk. So at this moment, I will move on to open up public communications. City Clerk, is there anybody looking to speak?
No, Mayor, at this time, we have not received requests for comment.
All right. Thank you for that, City Clerk. Seeing that nobody is looking to speak, I will go ahead and close the public communication. And we will move on to our open session. And it's a presentation by the Ballpark Police Department regarding their unmanned aerial system, UAS program.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Joshua Hendricks, Captain with the Ballpark Police Department. And I've been asked to come before you to just kind of explain to you what will be on the agenda for the next council meeting, which is the Ballpark's drone, or better known as a UAS, unmanned aerial system proposal that we have for you. We've currently held community engagement meetings. Unfortunately, maybe just due to the timing of them, given the concerts in the park that we had, there wasn't any attendees. And so we wanted to publish this for this agenda meeting to kind of give members an opportunity to come here and more importantly, to explain it to you guys, our purpose and what the proposed UAS system would look like. So if we can, next slide, please. The use of the drones, or the UAS unmanned aerial systems, began in law enforcement around the mid-2010s, roughly around 2014 to 2016, with agencies recognizing their potential to enhance public safety operations. Since then, this technology has rapidly been evolving, and the adoption of it has grown significantly, with an estimated 1,500 agencies nationwide that currently use the drone program. In fact, in LA County alone, when I just did a quick survey, out of the 39 counties, 30 of them already have this program, some sort of version of a drone or UAS program in place. This technology has proven to be invaluable in various scenarios, from search and rescue missions to crime scene documentation, demonstrating its ability to improve operational efficiency and officer safety while serving our communities more effectively. Here in California, we've seen firsthand the impact of this technology with such pioneering cities such as Chula Vista and San Diego. In 2018, they launched a drone as a first responder program, which has since become the model for agencies nationwide. Their drones deploy from rooftops of the police department and other city buildings, and often arrive at incident scenes before ground units, providing crucial real-time information to responding officers. As of 2023, their program has responded to over 10,000 calls for service, showcasing kind of the significance and the forward thinking of where this program is going to go. We're excited to bring this technology here to Ballpark, and why we're not looking to do a DFR or drone as a first responder program. We are looking to implement it to be able to use on certain calls for service, as well as when we have planned activity or calls for service that come in, such as search and rescue missions or search warrants, or any scenario we feel that this might provide us both with public safety for the officers and enhanced service to the community. Next slide, please. So as this shows, this kind of gives us an outlay or the purpose of the UAS program. This program is designed to serve multiple critical objectives, all centered around improving our service to this community. First and foremost, it enhances our public safety by providing us with new and emerging technology and surveillance tool. This technology significantly increases our operational effectiveness, allowing us to cover ground more quickly, get to calls faster, and increases our operational effectiveness and to gather crucial information. It also plays a vital role in officer safety, enabling us to assess potentially dangerous situations from a safe distance and even before our officers get there. This technology expands our capabilities as a cost-effective solution without straining our budget. This program can also help with investigations, offering intelligence and data previously difficult to obtain. Lastly, this program can be crucial for rapid assessment and coordinating relief efforts in disasters, disaster response scenarios, and critical incidents. Adopting this technology into our police department enhances our ability to protect and serve this community across multiple fronts. Next slide, please. This is kind of just an overview of the mission statement, which you'll find located in the SOP books that's going to be presented to you in the next council meeting. This program, it aims to enhance public safety, increase our operational effectiveness, and promote innovation in law enforcement practices. We aim to provide airborne support to police operations safely, responsibly, and transparently to preserve the peace, reduce response times, and improve the quality of life to our residents. Our philosophy is to balance these benefits of the UAS technology with our community's privacy rights and civil liberties. We are committed to using the UAS only for authorized law enforcement purposes while maintaining the highest standards of accountability, transparency, and community trust. The Mountain Park Police Department's UAS program directly supports our mission to protect and serve our community with integrity, professionalism, and respect. Next slide, please. It's kind of small, so I'll go over some of them with you, but these are examples of some of the authorized usage of our UAS or drone program that is listed in our SOPs. So they can be used for response to crimes in progress or emergent calls for service, hazard assessments, disaster responses, mapping if needed, search and rescue missions. We can assist with fire response, crime scene documentation, traffic scene documentation, crowd monitoring, not control so much, but just to give us eyes on to review things, criminal investigations and intelligence gathering. They'll assist us with arrest and search warrant services, any sort of tactical operation, and as mentioned before, searches for missing persons. They will assist with hostage and barricaded subjects, video and photographs for investigative purposes, training, and one of the things we thought about, it can even be used for education, such as at public events, social media, or any demonstrations like when we had the open house last night. These are just some of the examples provided to you right now. Next slide, please. So the safeguards and technology. Protecting our community's privacy is one of the principles surrounding our UAS program. We've implemented standards and safeguards to ensure the responsible use of this technology. First and foremost, we strictly prohibit random surveillance activities. Our operators will be forbidden from intentionally recording or transmitting images of private areas without proper legal authority. When missions necessitate flights over private property, we will minimize hovering time to only be there for the essential amount of time and for the task at hand. In cases where frequent monitoring of an area would be required, we're committed to notifying the adjacent property owners of the purpose and the duration of the flight. Should we inadvertently capture private information, our policy and procedures will mandate that it be masked or obscured before any internet or external release of the videos. And lastly, we'll maintain strict access controls, ensuring that only authorized personnel can view the UAS collected data, and that data usage or accessing it will be monitored through auditing and sort of software that can tell who's logged in and who's done what with what. So these measures reflect our commitment to balancing the public safety needs with the privacy rights of our citizens. Next slide, please. Going more into the data. So our data retention policies will safeguard information in an effort to maintain public trust, as mentioned. We'll limit retention to only periods necessary, which is for its intended use, typically not going to go past 60 days. The industry standard right now is between 30 and 90 days. And so we're going to shoot right down the middle and say we won't maintain it past 60 days unless that data is needed for a criminal investigation or a legal proceeding. All data will be stored in a secured access controlled system with protocols and procedures in place for when that data is no longer needed and it can be removed. We will maintain an audit history, as mentioned, of all users' access to UAS data, ensuring accountability. Additionally, we do not share this data with any external parties unless legally required to by the courts or some other means. To ensure ongoing compliance, we'll schedule audits of our retention practices and see if there's any updates that we need to do on a yearly basis. Remember, transparency is the key to this approach, and we'll be also publishing those audits online yearly as this program continues. These procedures reflect our commitment to this data management, again, balancing our operational needs with the concerns that the citizens of our community might have. Next slide, please. So some of the key points that are covered in the SOP, and I kind of wanted to just give an overlay of them, is the program is built on the foundations of safety, accountability, and again, transparency. We're kind of not throwing that word around lightly, but we want it to be something that you as the council, as well as our community, feels comfortable with as we implement this program. So we'll have strict operational guidelines that ensure we comply with FAA rules, protect privacy, and limit our drone use to just specific and authorized purposes only. Our pilots, which will consist of our officers, will undergo extensive training and tests, including FAA certification, and will have regular proficiency checks. Again, as mentioned, we're going to take the data protection seriously, so we'll have strict policies and measures to safeguard any inadvertently capturing private information. There'll be safety protocols in place, and some of those include pre- and post-flight checklists and emergency procedures if our drone loses power, or if we lose control of that drone, what we would do. Again, once you guys get the SOP books in the next council meeting, all that should be laid out for you in there. So again, we are committed to the community engagement. We've held on public education meetings before, and we talked about continuing those throughout the year, even if this program is adapted, because we haven't had much interest from the public yet. So we figure as the events throughout the year and next year go on, including next year or the rest of these concerts in the parks, the downtown street markets, our open house, any event where law enforcement can be there and we have the opportunity to share this program with the community, we want to take full advantage of that. So next slide, please. This talks a little bit about the administration and chain of command. This program, admin, is structured to ensure responsibility, comprehensive training, again, for our users, and meticulous record keeping. We'll operate under the detailed standard operating procedures book or manual that applies to all UAL personnel in any operations, guaranteeing consistency and adherence to industry standards and best practices. The chain of command is clearly defined, obviously starting at the top with Chief Lopez as the chief of police, and it flows all the way through the support services captain, myself, UAS coordinators, typically a lieutenant, and then a UAS supervisor overseeing the program itself, which is a sergeant. This structure ensures clear lines of authority and decision-making. The crews will consist of trained, what are called RPIC, remote pilots in command. They're basically the ones who fly the drones, visual observers who will monitor and observe what the drone is doing, and then the payload operators and collections is also a significant part of that. So again, we'll have a training program which includes the initial certification, proficiency checks, and yearly training. The commitment or the reasoning for this is just to ensure continuous education and that we stay up to date with any FAA regulations, any advancements in this technology, and just that we're staying on top of best practices. So next slide, please. Part of the training for this just talks about the qualifications of the RPICs, or the remote pilots. They have to hold what's called an FAA Part 107 license, and it just means that they have to go through hours of training. They even have to pass a test. If I'm not mistaken, it's 70 or 80% that they have to get when they pass the test. 70%. This just ensures compliance and understanding of the federal regulations. And again, as you're going to probably hear me kind of repeat in here, we have a very robust UAS standard operating procedures that's currently being reviewed by the chief and will be to you guys within the next 2 weeks. This is just to maintain our peak performance and safety, and that we have a supervisor that oversees the training sessions, the proficiency checks, the logging and use of when we actually deploy the drones. All of this will be kept with us at all times and be available to either you as a council or to the public on a yearly basis. This just ensures that we stay, again, within industry standards and best practices. Next slide, please. This just talks a little bit about safety and risk management. So again, we have a comprehensive framework within our standard operating procedures that it just ensures that we follow the FAA rules and regulations with pre and post flight checklists, documentation of all our flights, equipment maintenance, making sure we adhere to manufacturer guidelines. And this is just to ensure that our compliance with our own rules that we're setting up and that it minimizes risks. And that's really the main part for all this. Next slide, please. As touched upon before, this deals with the training, and it's our continual desire to improve through our ongoing training. So besides their initial training, there'll be regular exercises to ensure that our team of drone operators maintain peak proficiency and responsibilities. We've integrated learning methods, safety training, as well as briefing trainings for them, and this will all be kept in their personnel files to ensure that their training has been captured there. They'll get training on certain things such as emergency situation scenarios or unexpected challenges, as well as operational use of the hardware that we'll purchase at a later time. This is, again, just to ensure that we have highly skilled and adaptable operators for our UAS program. Next slide, please. Sure what slide I'm on. Again, this slide right here just highlights some of the developmental priorities for emergency response operations, any sort of damage or hazard assessment, tactical missions. It's kind of a repeat of an earlier slide, but I wanted to put this in here to kind of highlight some of the more important things that we think it could be useful for as far as traffic collision investigations, any sort of crime scene investigations, as well as media relations or public education. Next slide, please. So fiscal impact, a lot of times this comes down to what's it going to cost council. So I'm pleased to kind of say that we don't anticipate any impact to the general fund or even to our budget right now, just due to us taking a look at this and realizing we can use federal asset forfeiture money that the city already has to kind of get this drone program started. So the goal is to have this entire program, including the equipment and training, be funded through the police department's federal asset forfeiture account. This approach means that we think we can implement a starting point with the city and then kind of assess it as we go without an impact to us or for us coming to the city council at a later time to ask for funds to get this program up. So by utilizing this asset forfeiture funds, we're able to enhance our capabilities without it creating an additional burden to the city and to our taxpayers. Next slide, please. So I apologize if I talk fast. I'm not used to being up here and I have a tendency to do that. So I'll take a moment to kind of slow down and just say, what are the next steps beyond today? So as we see, this will eventually come to council, and I wanted you guys to have the opportunity to either ask me questions or to review it over the next 2 weeks before I think it's the August, say the 21st council meeting, at which point this will come before you. And you obviously, as always, will have the ability to approve it, turn it down, or want some further review. Once that's done, the adopted proposal and policy will be published online at that point for all to see. And then I would still need to then go out and decide what drones we want to purchase and what is the best starting point for us. And so there'd be another staff report, even though it'd be for funds we currently have, I'd still need to present it back to the council for your approval to make any sort of purchase. And once that would be done, we would begin with our training, implementation of the program, and we'd be ready to sort of rock and roll. So next slide, please. This is just kind of an overview of my speech or my spiel up here. I think, our ability to add another tool to our arsenal, if you will, and to be able to serve this community with innovative technology while doing it in a safe, effective, with the written procedures and with an understanding that new technology can be scary to certain people, and that we're taking in those sort of concerns and addressing them right away. This program, like I said, it's been around for several years now. And so I don't want to say that we're sort of introducing new technology. I feel like we're catching up with the technology and have an opportunity to bring this here to the city of Baldwin Park. We've had to rely on our surrounding sister agencies to assist us by utilizing their programs because we obviously has to get approved through council. So this process actually started when we were updating and looking at the military equipment annual report that came out in April. At that point, I had to present to you guys not opportunities, but potential items that we wanted to purchase, as the drone program does fall under the military equipment guidelines. So at that point, that was brought to you as one of our potential items for the year or programs to begin was this drone program here. Next slide, please. And with that, any questions or comments I can assist or help you with?
I think it's a good, it's a great idea. It's a nice addition. Like you said, to the arsenal, if you will. My question is public records requests. How do those apply to a drone?
So the public record request for the footage would fall under the same guidelines as like our current PRA request. So right now, if somebody wanted to even request our body cam footage, they wouldn't be allowed to do so. So the same thing would be for the drones. And if on certain occasions they can be, anybody that's not involved in our direct investigation, as mentioned earlier, they would be blurred out or blacked out. So then that would offer protection to any individual that was captured that didn't want to be have their information released.
Okay. So to recap that then, so if somebody from the public wanted, footage of an incident, we don't have to provide it to them unless they're part of the investigation initially? Or
So it gets a little complicated because I want to say yes, but I guess the best answer for me to give is it depends. And what I mean by that is there are evidence code protection. So if it's involved in, let's say, use of a search warrant or some sort of special response team, we have protections under evidence code that say, hey, this would reveal like not our investigative techniques, but our techniques that we use and strategies that we use, and we don't want that released to the public. When it comes to maybe more specific ones, without me giving an inaccurate answer up here, I guess that would have to be based on individual assessments. And a lot of times what we do is we run it through the legal team. We run it through and ask like, hey, is this something that we can be released? So it would follow, I guess, sort of that same procedure that we do when we get CPRA requests right now. So in the case I make a mistake, BBK would be there to sort of help me out and say, no, we can't release that.
Yeah, and I would just add that would essentially run through our internal analysis as far as whether it would qualify under an existing exemption or it'd be privileged in some way, so.
yeah, because I'm sure in an incident you would capture more people than maybe a suspect, or there could be others involved, and to protect their privacy and things like that could be redacted, right? Okay, that's good.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman.
thank you for that presentation. I think it's amazing what a drone can do. Is that the drone that you were using last night, or was that the Parks and Recreation? There was a drone out there.
Did you have yours up? Yeah, no, it was one of ours, but that was our sergeant's, but it's his personal one. So I had asked him to go and try to capture some video to maybe include inside this PowerPoint
Right.
presentation. I just didn't have the time to get it and embed it into this program.
It does really capture a lot. And I was thinking of during the 4th of July, when we have so many illegal fireworks going on, where you can actually capture where they're coming from with the drones, I'm thinking. I know you have to go get your FFA license and compliance. How long does it take for them? I don't know if I missed it, for them to get the license?
Good evening. My name is Sergeant Gonzalez. So I chose to take it upon myself to try to initiate this. So I went ahead and got my Part 107 license. And I can tell you right now that the FAA test is significantly difficult. It has a failure rate of 80% on the first try. Eventually they pass it, but it has a very high failure rate on the first attempt. So me personally, I studied the Part 107 test. If I want to tell you, I did 80 to 90 hours of just straight studying over a period of time before I felt comfortable enough to pass that test. I'm probably shortchanging that a little bit, but it's a significant amount of time. And it's definitely you have to dedicate the time to go ahead and apply yourself in order to successfully pass it overall, but definitely pass it the first time.
Right, because I know you have to go abide by the no-fly zone areas. We do have some, I believe, here in Baldwin Park, because we're so close to the Amani Airport. So I know you have to have all those rules in place, correct?
So there's an application that I use. It's called Air Aware. And what that does, it pretty much, if there's any restrictions for the location that you're flying the drone, it'll notify you. Also too, it gives you the opportunity to what's called the LANC notification, the low altitude authorization. So every time I fly my drone or personal use, I always go onto the application and I get approval, essentially from the FAA if there's a restriction in the area.
Right.
Ironically, I've flown in Baldwin Park just to hone my skills. And for the first time, what was it, yesterday? They had a restriction which restricted you to 200 feet above ground level. So that was kind of unique. Every other time there hasn't been any restrictions.
Yeah, and I know because my son has a license also, and there has been times that he has been restricted to go above a certain height.
Right. Well, the ceiling for any drone is
Certain
400
area.
feet.
In a
At
certain
400
area.
feet above ground level, or maybe, 100 feet above the tallest structure. And that could be over 400 feet.
And then you also mentioned for the operation flight, you have the person flying it, the person looking at the video, and there was one more person.
So the remote pilot in command, he's the one controlling the drone. He's the one looking at the screen. And your visual observer could be somebody who's on the next block over. As long as he can see the drone and he could he could communicate with you by whatever means, cell phone or radio, to tell you, hey, there's an aircraft approaching from the west, or there's a flock of birds that's, congregating in this area. So that's the purpose of the visual observer, just an extra set of eyes. You can use one visual observer, you could use 10 visual observers. It would depend on the operation.
So when you're looking at the drone
Payload.
at the actual area that you can view of where you're flying over, is that going to be connected to our command center where somebody can be looking at the footage that you're actually flying over so that they can better concentrate on whatever it is you guys are looking for, or is it just straight from the drone that you're looking
So the
at?
capability is available that you can create a line. It's kind of like when you do Zoom meetings, how they send you the link. The capabilities are there that you can actually send out the link to whoever you want, and they can view it real time on their phone. So they can see exactly what the pilot's seeing on the remote.
Because I would think somebody viewing a drone that's being flown over an incident per se can probably pay a lot more attention to what's going on within the area versus the person flying the drone, because there's a lot involved to making sure that you're following our regulations, that it's not going to hit anything or what have you. So I really like the drone idea, especially because it can go into areas for your safety before you get there. It can take a view of everything that's surrounding the area, and then you can come in safely and know where there may be possible danger, when without the drone, we wouldn't know that. So I really like the idea. And the best part that I like is that it won't take anything from our general funds. That's great.
Well, I mean, if
That's
also
part-
you compare it to a helicopter, how much it costs to operate a helicopter, not the initial purchase, but just the overall maintenance and care. And you're getting a substantial amount of money getting charged to you when the helicopter's up in the air. You take that and, I would say throw out a number, it costs $100,000 to, maintain or operate that helicopter. You're spending, if maybe your initial purchase is the biggest bulk, but the maintenance of the drone is significantly lower.
And how often do you recertify yourself?
So you take the test and then you have to recert every 2 years after that.
Right. Those
I
are
mean, but it's incumbent upon, the operator to ensure that he continues the training. Because with the FAA, they have frequent changes. So
Right.
You need to make sure you stay abreast of those changes.
good. Sounds like a great program. Thank you for the presentation.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, Mayor.
Councilmember?
First of all, thank you for the presentation. I tried to make it out to the last one you had, but it was a conflict with the concerts at the park. So thank you for bringing this to us. I totally support this program. I also agree that it's very cost effective compared to the helicopter program, having to, I guess, rent it out. But I did have a couple of questions regarding your slide. So you did mention that we were going to be keeping the data for 60 days, more or less, right? What's to happen if, let's just say, for example, there's something that comes up, let's just say, 4 or 6 months after those 60 days, maybe some type of potential lawsuit. Would we still be able to retrieve that data, or after the 60 days, it's completely gone?
Because we don't have the software in place right now, my initial answer wants to be no, because that's the purpose of getting rid of it unless we flagged it for either some sort of legal proceeding or a criminal investigation, which we would do. But typically when video falls off, the beauty of that is because we're saying, hey, we no longer need this. It's dropped off and you should not be able to retrieve it. Once we look into the software of how we're going to retain the data, I'd probably better answer that question for you.
Okay, so there's a possibility for us to be able to retain that data once we get the software, just so that we're kind of covering ourselves in case some type of litigation comes down the line.
Yeah, and
After those 60
another
days.
option would be to extend that time. Like I said, the industry standard from my research has shown that it's anywhere from as little as 30, but up to 90 days, typically right around the average is 60, and that's why we were going with that. But I'm sure there's some out there that have 120 days. And so that would give you a significant more amount of time as well. Again, as we take those next steps, that's when I go back to working with our city attorneys, and we help develop a game plan for that.
Okay, perfect. And then, do you know how many drones you're thinking of purchasing?
For our initial purchase, we were thinking of 3. I have some, again, relying on the Sergeant Gonzalez, and I have a Lieutenant Cross who has some experience with drones too. We would kind of look around and see what is a good starting point. And you need different sizes, different tools, from floor tools to be able to like see it in infrared. You'd want smaller ones to potentially go inside doors or houses for critical situations. And there's a multitude of ones out there. I mean, they can range anywhere from, I want to say, $5,000 all the way up to over 100,000. We're going to start our program out smaller, and then sort of assess it and report back to you guys the benefits and make determinations if we would like to continue to grow it. Ideally, and I wouldn't even say ideally, I see this in law enforcement becoming sort of transitioning like other departments are into what's called a DFR, a drone first responder program, meaning as we receive calls of, a disturbed individual or a mental health crisis or even a family disturbance, the idea is to launch a drone which can get there quicker, have eyes overhead, and start providing us with immediate intel right away. Kind of going back to the helicopter comparison when it comes to cost, El Monte completely got rid of their helicopter program, saving themselves over $500,000 a year, and invested over $300,000, their first year's worth, into a robust sort of drone program where they've already trained somewhere between 17 to 21 of their officers, because they want 24-hour service to be able to launch their drones whenever a call for service dictates it. The Sergeant Gonzalez has kind of just been monitoring the radio, and we average probably just in day watch alone while we're here, 5 to 6 calls where we see a value if we had a sort of a DFR down the road, meaning we could set up launch pads. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we have the beauty of us is we have a small city as far as square mileage. You could set up one from here at the PD and the city hall, and probably another one down where our services are at Public Works, and you probably get coverage for the entire city just with those 2 things alone. So that will be a benefit to us down the road. Initially, however, it's going to be limited to what the usage is. So we won't just be deploying it randomly. There'll be more steps that need to go into place before we get there.
Perfect. And then you just answered my other question, which was, where are you going to be deploying them from? So you just said one could be deployed from City Hall and the other one from the Public Works yard, correct?
So a lot of times when we have pre-planned events, we would set up to a closer location, almost like we would if we have, and again, I'll go back to sort of the tactical side of things. When we have a search warrant or any sort of operations involving our SWAT team or special response team, we set up what's called a CP or command post a lot closer to that area. So the goal is we're out of sight, but close enough that we can respond with additional tools and resources if needed. And typically from there, the drone itself could be launched from there or somewhere similar. I've been in operations where they'll even get within a mile or half a mile of the location, just given the capabilities of it. So to answer your question again, typically, yes, we would want to launch from here, but on certain operations, depending on where it's located, that's the beauty of their versatility and size and ease of use. We could just launch them from any point.
Perfect. All right, that's all the questions I had. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So, I think it's a good program, and especially as you're talking about reducing our costs with helicopters and a lot of those added costs. But I do just want to make sure that when we bring this program to fruition, that we do have a policy written in place. So not just a verbal policy, but a policy that is you know, written out and to make sure that, you know, we have that ability to uphold the transparency and the values that we're pushing for with the community and continue that trust that we're working on with them, but also so that we are able to more fully support the effort.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so thank you for that presentation to the both of you.
Appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you.
So at this moment, we are officially done with the public session. So we're going to go ahead and go into closed session and we will see everybody at the 7 o'clock meeting.